Hello there, and welcome to my little arty corner here on YouTube. I'm Angela Porter, and it's lovely to have you here with me. I love to draw, I love to be creative, and I love to share what I do with others in the hope that it inspires and encourages you and give you some hints and tips from what goes through my mind, how I create art, which certainly isn't the only way, and it may not be entirely the correct way, but it's the way that works for me. And hopefully everybody can gain something from it. I often say, even if you go, nope, that's not for me, you've learned something about yourself. And that's the important thing. It's finding out what is you by finding out what isn't you. Yeah, that's a bit philosophical to start off with, but thank you for bearing with me. I know it's most probably been about a week or more since I last released a video. It's been a week. I'll tell you more. Let's get to some drawing. Well, I may tell you more, as this is about art, but other things come into me in art. That's the problem. So in the last video, this is where I ended, where I'd sort of recreated what I'm doing as the cover for the Entangled sampler book. And you can see I've actually done a bit more work on this. So I am going to show you these new bits and perhaps look at some more. See, I've worked out what I wanted to put there, and it's a kind of variation on Crescent Moon. So I'll just pop this out the way. I'm going to grab my piece of paper. I'm going to lock the autofocus. I think I did it before, but I can't remember. I'm going to have some of my tea that is with me. Still warm enough to enjoy. And put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing, and we'll get on with that. So this little section here I would like to fill with these kinds of things, which are, I say fill with them, I may not fill it all with these because it's going to take a little while. This is a really well-worn pen now, but it'll work, it'll do. So I'm creating a kind of heart shape here, and I'm just going to aura around it, and then I'm going to do heart shapes that sort of go into the corner, so we'll be staggering them in layers. So I'll do the same here over this side. It's going to be a bit of an odd one here because of the shape of the motif edge next to it, but it'll work because we've got the two bumps at the top, so it just look like we've got something hidden behind. So, and I will get these just to join together. I think I may need to just extend that one just a little bit on there, and that then will make it look like it belongs there. That works. It's good enough for now. So it's been a bit of a week. I had 2 days where people were involved, actually 3 because yesterday was one as well. And when it involves people in person, I can be exhausted and drained afterwards for lots of reasons. So I had another funeral to go to this week. Did I say I was going to stagger these? Obviously not. It's okay. It will work out no matter how I work this. I'm not trying to make it perfect today. In fact, perfect is not going to be the thing for me today. So I had a funeral to go to. I had new glasses to pick up, and shopping, and another prescription to pick up, to have filled. And the new prescription was for an increased dose of the antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication I'm taking. And that's absolutely floored me this week. I have spent so much time sleeping, it's ridiculous, or not being able to focus or bring my mind to bear. And I'm feeling that way at the moment, but I didn't get up till nearly midday today. And I'm already ready to curve, to sort of like go horizontal and send out the Zs again. But it is helping. But I still get anxiety of some kind when I'm around people. But I think it's more to do with a mask that Well, I think we all wear masks when we're out, but I think I've been wearing mine for most of my life, and it's got to the point where it's so exhausting to keep it up. I think it's just too much on top of everything else, and so it exhausts me. And I had an unusual, as I was out last night, not out gallivanting, I was out for a purpose, to give a kind of talk to people. And I overcame really hot and sweaty, sick and nauseous, and had to dash to the little girl's room for a moment to find myself. So that was a bit odd. Fine now. Well, I seem to be, and I've got no idea why I felt that way. But I don't know. But it's really lovely to spend time just creating art. So I could carry on adding some here, but I feel I'm going to get, well, I wouldn't get too much of an awkward edge actually. Just notice that there. So let me just do a couple more here. So it's been a bit of a strange week for me, and I'll be fine. I just need some quiet time again. Possibly people could argue I have too much quiet time. But odd things, have set me off this week is where, I've been wished by people like, oh, have a fantastic day, or have a wonderful day, a grand day. And I'm thinking, all I want is a calm, peaceful day with no tears and upset. Don't wish me something that is currently unattainable for me. And I wonder how many of you feel the same at times. You're thinking, oh, you're setting me up for failure by wishing me something I'm not going to be able to achieve at this present moment in my life. Yeah. Complicated, isn't it? I know the meaning's well it's well meant, but it provokes that bit of me that goes, no, no, don't wish me that. Which is daft, but it's that automatic reaction that comes. But no matter what, I'm able to draw, and I will post in the community section here a drawing that I finished in the wee small hours when I woke up for a while, and couldn't quite get back to sleep. I just needed to do something, and I will post that for you in the community section after I finished recording this. So that looks really nice here. I really do like that. It looks all lovely and puffy, and if you compare it with the original one here, I wish I had a bit more space for this. Perhaps I'll put some more of that elsewhere, because I've got this area to finish and I don't quite know what to do. Okay, so if I come over to this area, you can see that this here was the end of this one, but can you see I've put some interesting shapes there, which sort of look like this but aren't like this. So one of them, I'll start with one and I'll start down here. They all have some kind of centre to them. So I'll start with the ones that are like this, and then I'm just going to draw a double aura around them. And I'm also going to do my usual thickening the line to the bottom and left, and then on the inside to the top and right, and around the inside here I'm going to make that a little bit thicker. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to separate this into segments, but in some of the segments, the lines, I'm going to add like a circle there, just to change things a little bit. And I'm not trying to get these at the same place on the lines or every line with them in, because it looks very mechanical when you do it like that, and I'm looking for a more organic feel. So that one's quite nice. I think I might pop one in down here because I can. And let's have a look. I've said I don't mind if things spill outside of my guidelines, it's just that I'd like to keep most things within, or, you know, just a little bit outside. And the guidelines are there to give me that background colour or blackness or whatever I'm going to do here. I don't know yet. So with this one, I'm going to start with a small circle. Then I'm going to aura it again, and then aura it again. Here I'm going to fill the outside one in black. The next one in, I'm going to put lines very close together. And this one I'm going to have lines here but a bit further apart. So I'm varying the density of ink, and what I'm hoping is there's an illusion here that the central bit that is much brighter, whiter than the other sections, is way above, and I've just added some ink to the left and bottom of these sections, not the outside one, just to help give that appearance of a shadow on the other way. So it almost looks like we've got something growing out from a dark pit here. And I could leave the outside here empty, but what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put some little, almost like horseshoe shapes or partial curves or letter C's there. A bit like warts is what I'm going for. So I'm going to add some ink right at the very bottom of these dips to add some volume, and then I've got something interesting going on. And again, I forgot to add ink to these lines to the left and the bottom, and then to the right and top. That should do, like so. Okay, so that's a bit more interesting. I've zoomed out quite a bit. So I'll zoom in for this one. My problem is I may forget to zoom back in, which is always a bit of a problem with me. Okay, this one here, I created this shape so it looked like we've got like a hole with something growing out the middle of it. But we can create something similar, where perhaps we've got almost like a quarry in the middle. That's how I view it or think of it. This is like a mountain in a lake, whereas the next one is going to be a bit like a quarry. We've got deeper and darker holes, so I'm going to again just put some concentric circles here. I'm doing circles, but actually you could choose to do any shape you fancy. Now then, I found doing the lines here a bit clunky with the 05, so here I'm going to use an 01. So I'm putting lines very closely together so we get quite a dark grey. The next one I'm just going to spread them out a little bit more so there's more space, less ink. And then this last one I'm definitely going to spread them quite far apart, just so it separates them from the background. And because I want this to feel like we're going inwards, I'm actually going to put the shadows to the top and the right of each of these rings. Like so. And so that gives that a completely different feel. And then what I'm going to do is, coming out from the outer lines, I'm just going to put some lines of dots that radiate out, just to give some pattern that's going on there. Okay, I've got 3 there, so I'm definitely going to do 1 more, possibly 2 more, because I've got two variations here. So let's draw the 2 in as I start. Okay, so I'm just going to go here and add some ink around there, down here. So the outside line is bottom and left. The inside line is top and right. That's how I think of it always. Okay, so one of these I'm going to put here. I'm going to have a big circle in the middle, and I'm going to put black ink or some extra ink at the top and the right. And then in the middle I'm going to use an 03, and I'm just going to draw a leafy sprig. Move over a bit. Why am I working? Oh, forgive me if if I'm not very good at remembering to check where I am on the camera. My head is all over the place. So we've got this going on here. Now I'm going to use a pencil, and I'm going to draw a pencil line, pencil aura around that central bit, because that's going to help me do the next bit. And I'm going to use an 01 pen for this. And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to start by going up and down. So I'm drawing, well, it is a backward S shape here. And I'm going to carry on doing that, but I'm adding ink to the bottom. So it's almost like this is hooking around a lip where that pencil line is. And then the weight at the bottom just makes it feel that this is just falling away or curving away. That one's not quite so good. We're not going to get the entirety of the curve in there where it goes underneath. And here, this is likely to be the last one. But that gives a kind of feeling of that there's some shape going on here, some bending and folding and something there. And once that pencil line's erased, which I will do once this is fully dried, that will look a little bit on the different side as well. Okie dokes. So I'm just putting my tops on my pens. For this one, instead of putting a single one of these in the middle, I like to arrange 3 of them in a little group like that. So they form a sort of like very rounded kind of triangle shape. Too small a space for me to leave any white space in this, but I can always add a white centre to those black bits there with a jelly roll pen. And then all I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw some lines that kind of radiate out. I do want some that go behind here. So I'm not trying to have any specific number of lines in each section, just enough that that middle bit is connected to the outer ring, so it's holding it together. Okie dokes. So that's this collection here, redrawn. Next one is this one. I'm sure I've seen this somewhere. I'm sure I've seen it's got a name, but I couldn't tell you what it is. But this reminds me of ochre. It does. So it looks perhaps more complicated than it is. But I'm going to start with a small dot in the middle. If I pull this over, there we go, down a bit. There we are, over a bit again. That's a bit more in the centre. Oh gosh. So I'm going to draw 5 in this instance, petal shapes, roughly equidistant, roughly the same size, but it's not important if they're not. So that was easy, arranged like a little flower. And then I'm going to draw a curved line that curves towards the centre from between pairs of petals like this. And so it creates a pentagram or pentagon with curved sides. That looks nice. You could leave it like that if you like, but I like to add a border because then we can put groups of them together, they can overlap, and we can still make sense of them. So I like that. And they're nice just as they are like this. So let's do another one. And again, I'm just going to start with petals. I've got one there that's a little bit shorter than the others, but it'll work out fine. I'm human, I'm not perfect. None of us are. I'm still learning how not to be a hyper-perfectionist. Okay, let's do one here. Now I'm doing 5 because I quite like an arrangement of 5 petals. It looks like a little star. And I like stars. I like hearts as well, but I like stars. And but you could choose to do 4 of them, 6, however many you like, depending on how big you draw this shape. Do a couple more, or perhaps one. So I'm conscious that I've got other patterns to put in, and I'm running out of, I haven't got as much space on this as I have on my original one, which is bonk, because I drew these so much bigger. So perhaps here I'll do one that is overlapping or underlapping. Is there a word such as underlapping? If there isn't, there is now, because I've just created it. But it sort of like goes underneath that particular motif there. And then for the 5th one, because you know me, I've got to have a 5th. I'm going to draw one down here, which will also poke its way underneath. 2, just like that. And then I can draw the aura in like that. So I've got a little smattering of these here. Now I do want to fill in between these petals in, and I quite like doing this just by starting on the outside and auraing those curved lines in towards the middle. It gives just enough density of line to help to bring those petals out. Of course, you can just fill it in with black, which would be very high contrast, very dramatic. And that would be nice as well. So there's another variation. I do like that actually. Then we could, instead of filling the background in black, we could fill the petals in black and reverse that contrast in some way. Not sure I like that one quite so much, but it still works. I think it's personal preference, and sometimes you need to try things out to work out whether you like them or not. Okay, so then with this one, I'm going to put a dot in the middle of each petal. And then here, instead of having all this in black, I'm going to try to aura this space and just fill in that little triangle I create like that. Didn't do a very good job of it. And this one, I think I'll just do lines that radiate out from the centre. So I'll draw the central one in. Depending on the space, I'll either put 1 or 2 lines in to split the space up, like so. That one could do with another bit there. Now the space around them, we've got plenty of space around this. So rather than fill it in with black, I could fill it in with something like tipple, which is a great pattern to fill things in with. Tiny little circles, and you add a lot of ink, but it's not as black as, say, solid black as over here. It's a bit more subtle. We could fill it in with cross hatching. Broken cross hatching is my favourite, where we draw parallel lines close together with a little break between them, and I say close together because I'm using an 01 pen. And then I'm going to go back in the opposite direction, or 90 degrees, I say opposite direction, perpendicular, to create a square crosshatch like that. And because the lines are all broken, it tends to look a little bit like burlap or sackcloth. I've got a little space between these, so I'm going to fill this in with circles, orbs if you prefer. And then the other thing I do want to do is I do want to give some line weights to these. So on the outside, I'm going to go to the left and bottom, left, bottom. This one is kind of bottomy as well. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. And here. I won't do anything to the inside. This helps them to stand out from their neighbours more than anything else. But I might have a look on some of them at adding shadows to the left and bottom of the petals, like so. That helps them to stand out, doesn't it, on these kinds of backgrounds. But there's options here as to what you do. Also, if I bring my little 01 back, can also put a little line from the centre out as if they're little flowers, which is quite cute. Okay, so there's that one done. So that's this one. Here I put a big circle in the middle and it creates a different kind of feeling to it. The petals are further apart. So there's all options. I could have put a tiny little pentagon in the middle as well, or hexagon if you're going to do 6, or square if you're going to do 4, or diamond, depending on which way you organise things. Well, this pattern here is rixty. I think it's the branching version of it, and I just used it and had it branching off and doing weird things to just fill this corner in, because I realised that I've got a lot of very organic. If I zoom out, because I'm talking about stuff you can't see, I realised that on this I've got a lot of very organic rounded tangles or patterns, motifs, but I didn't have any that were very angular, hence why I popped this one in, which is somewhere in between the two. It's both got some angularity, some pointy bits, some straightish lines, but it's also got that organic flowery feel. This one up here is really quite geometric in its way. It has got some organic sort of like embellishments on the end of the points, which I quite like. But this one is, again, is kind of between organic and geometric. So it's got a different feel to these others over here. So I'll start with doing some of this rixty. So I'm going to choose a place where I'm going to start growing it from. And I think that here, it doesn't really matter where you start. And I'll zoom in again so you can see what I'm doing. I'll try and move myself over a bit so I can keep it more or less central. There we go. So I'm going to start with parallel lines. And then I'm going to draw almost like a triangle there. So I tend to draw it in as if there's a triangle without the points, but you can draw the horizontal line in and then connect it to triangles. It's not quite exactly the same on either side, but that doesn't really matter too much. You can always adjust it if you want one side a bit wider than it was, which is what I've just done. Then I'm going to aura around it with a bit of a wobbly line. Then this is where I'm going to imagine that I'm drawing this line, carrying on drawing it, and I'm just going to have it coming out a little bit on that side. So I'm tracing this side and then putting my pen down and drawing the next bit. Now, I could carry on having this going in a straightish line, but I don't. I want it to branch because I want some to go this way. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with some empty space here. So I'm going to create a little Y here. I could have had a third branch going up the middle, but I've decided not to this time. So there we are. I'm putting a straight line on the cap to cap that line off, drawing in 2 lines to create a triangle. And then we're going to aura this like that. And I'll do the same on this one. What I did notice was I put the triangle a bit too far down, so the triangle aura is coming from where the lines divide, and I really wanted it up a little bit. Like this. Okay, so if I go to this side, I'm going to draw along this. My pen is in the air, I can see where I'm going, and then I'm going to bring this one out like so. And because this one's going to go off the edge of my page, I'm going to give it a funky cap of some kind. So I think I'm going to make mine like this. It's an Angela favourite kind of thing to do. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to go back, well, this is the right way up, and put some line weight to the left and bottom of lines, just to start bringing some dimension into this. I prefer to do this as I go, to be honest, rather than leave it all to the end. But you can also see how it's beginning to transform here. Now then, with this one, I am going to branch this, and one of the branches is going to go back this way underneath there, so it's not going to have anything on it. But the other branch I can move and make longer, like that. And I'm going to start to change this just a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create something that's quite a rounded triangle, because I want to gradually change these to being more of a circular kind of thing. So instead of having pointy triangular corners, I've got rounded triangular corners here, like so. And then if I do one more branch, because I'm not going to get as many in here as I have done on the cover I'm working on, then I can create one that is circular. So I need to draw a circle here. So if I go around this way and back around, then it's like I've got a circle that goes behind this. It's not a perfect circle. It's a bit of a squashed circle, but it's fine. Works. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this out, and I'm going to have a branch that goes this way, a branch that goes that way. This one is going to be one that is a end cap, and then this one can be another circular one. So I've slowly turned, well, not so slowly, but I have got a transition point where I'm going to be cheeky here. I'm going to have a really long one of these without any rixties on them. Goes out that way. And I'll have the next one on the end here somewhere. This is the kind of transition. This is starting to transition from quite pointy to more rounded corners to something that's almost a circle, then to some circles. And here, I do want to have, look at that, I've tilted that circle as well, because that will help give the idea that I want to go in a slightly different direction. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to branch this as if it's bent underneath the circle, and I'm just going to put quite an oval shape here. Fill that in, and then I can have that running off and underneath there, and I can do the same here now. Just going to extend those lines, fill this in, and then fill that out, and I can just pop that line in there. So we've got the top bit is now all joined back off. This cheeky bit here is going to be where we start to fill this area in at the bottom. So let me just move myself over. You can tell I really have not been thinking very well here today. So there we are, we'll put another triangle in here. So I'm going to take a little bit of that out, and I am going to have one shooting off this direction, a short one that way, and the short one this way is going to be one that has a finial on the top. So I've just done it, I've made them all slightly different, and you can see them if I pull them down. So this one's got a lot of these little stones or blocks underneath the circle on the top. This one's just got two and a smaller circle. This one's got a teardrop or a leafy shape on there. In fact, what I might do is give them all some kind of pattern. That one looks like a tennis ball. That one's got a stripe. I can alter that. I'll give this one a black stripe as well. Like so. Okay. So here is going to be another triangular one. Again, I'm just going to aura this one. And I'm just going to come out of this one, give myself enough space to do one on the end here. A lot of it's going, well, I say a lot of it, all of one side really is going to be underneath that plant like seedy thing, the ochra. And then perhaps one more here. I think then I can have the end trailing away underneath. This here, joined back. And then it's just a case of very quickly going around and neatening things up where they need neatening. Left and bottom. There's another bottom. Don't forget these lines that come out. So left, bottom, that's the left of the line, so that will be thicker. This one will be thicker. Left, left, bottom, bottom. With these I sort of make them thicker part way up. So bottom, bottom, that's the bottom, bottom, and this one's the left, bottom, take it up to there and up there. Excuse me. Like so. This is the bottom of the line. This one was the bottom there. I might need a little bit more dark there. This one I'm going to put quite a bit of bottom around there. And there we have a more dense kind of rixty, but it needs something in the background to help to bring it out, I think. Oh, didn't do this one. Left and bottom like that. So you can compare the two. This is how I got more into this one, because I've drawn the things much smaller. Okay, let's have a look at this pattern and then I'll be done for the day. Because I think I may be needing to sleep again. Now then, trick for this one. Draw yourself an arc in pencil. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw lines that seem to, or that are wider apart on the pencil edge and closer together as they connect with the motifs that are already here. So we've got, where am I going? There, come on, down, down. So we've got this going on here. The next job, I'm going to draw triangles on the top. I'm aiming for roughly the same height, with the point roughly in the middle, but exactness isn't important, because even though this is quite geometric, it's still fairly organic in nature. Okay, so we've got those. Next job, I'm going to put just plain circles on the tips of the points. That will help disguise any unevenness or whatever. It adds an extra part to the pattern. And then I'm looking around the edge here. This one's really close to the edge of the paper. So I'm not really going to put anything else onto these, other than I might actually just put a small black circle at the base of them, just for a bit of line weight, and almost like these are connected together, not just put on there as an afterthought. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line from the point through the middle of the section. It doesn't have to be perfectly through the middle. Don't fret if it's not. Again, we're not drawing this with the aid of a computer or a ruler or measurements. Wherever the line goes, even if it's a bit wobbly, accept it for what it is. In fact, accepting self as one is, and not putting high expectations on yourself, amongst other things, is part of my blog post today. Yeah. So, I want to bring out some dimension in this, so I'm going to add shadow here, and I'm going to think about parts that are at the bottom. So I'm going to make this section here in shadow. So I'm going to fill it with, I'm putting, diagonal lines that are parallel to this edge. Now I'm lucky enough to be able to judge that, but from one end. But I'm going to turn it around because I prefer to draw from left to right. Usually, not always, I vary it. But I can get my first line in parallel or following the slope of this one, and then just carry on repeating that all the way down. If they're not perfectly parallel, don't worry about it. If they're not exactly the same distance between them, don't worry about it. Just try to keep them roughly the same. There'll be so many lines here that unless you leave a ginormous gap that you could squeeze another line or two in, nobody's going to notice the variation. It's hand-drawn. And as we're humans, we are perfectly imperfect in what we do. And I'm good with that, mostly. Except when the hyper-perfectionism kicks in, which it can do when I'm feeling low and down and pathetic. You know. Or worse. But that feeling passes. It just takes more time at the moment than it has done in the past, except for several years ago, but that's a different story I've told previously. So these, now I do want to go this way because I'm going to look, because these ones, if the light's coming this way, this section, this will catch the light, this will catch the light, but then here, this side will catch the light. So I'm going to start adding lines on the other side here, so we will have two areas that are in light next door to each other. You could just keep the pattern going all the way round, but I'm, for some reason, decided that I want to make it as if there's a realistic light source for these. Sometimes it's best not to try and figure out what's going on in my head. I seriously mean that, because I often don't know. Which is one of the reasons I set up YouTube, as I've said before. Force me to talk about what I'm doing. Art is one of those things that brings me peace and comfort. And no matter how bad my emotions get, if I'm able to open my eyes and sit up, I'm able to art, even if it's just for a short while. And often it helps to bring that sense of contentment or peace back for me. So that's worked quite nicely. Now, if I have a look here, I have added another little arc here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an arc that perhaps stops there and have an incomplete series of these peaks. And what I'm going to try to do is I want to draw these lines not so they don't connect with that dip, but they connect about halfway up these sections. So I'm doing this side first because I want to see if I like the size of these sections or if I want to split them down again. I may split them carefully because I've got these little balls in the way. There's going to be one that goes behind there, and there'll be another one here. And then, actually, I think I'm going to join them in pairs this way, and I'll extend those lines to create the peaks. Yeah, that's better, because if I tried to split some of these up, they're very tiny. Oh gosh, that one really didn't work, did it? It's okay. We'll make them all a little bit bent at the end then. If you make them all the same, they become part of the pattern. So I'm going to put these on at the end as well, like so. I'm going to do the same pattern with the black dot at the base of this. Okay, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mess with space just a little bit. And I'm going to do that by drawing a half one in, like so. So I want this one to be the brightest, which is the opposite to here. You'll see what I mean. So this here, I'm going to put the shadow on. Do the same here. The lines are curved at the ends. Curve these ones as well. There comes a point where you don't notice the curve because the lines get too short to really pick up the gentle curve. If you try to draw them straight to begin with, you will get a variation in the gap, which will be noticeable. Okay, here we've got this going on, like so. And then this one here. So this looks a bit odd there, doesn't it? So I may have to. There, that would be better. And I'll just put a black dot there. And I will. That one will still catch the light. So I'll put shade there. That feels better. So we have this going on. So if I zoom out, you can have a good look at this. And there's this one then as well. You can see I've still got this section left to do here. And on my my second version, or my teaching version, if you like, there's this section to do here. I will put this one in the sampler book because there are variations here that aren't on the other one. I may use this for the back cover, which would be interesting, especially if I mirror it. Yeah, that could be interesting if I mirror it digitally. Right, a couple of things that I want to do before I finish this for the day. I want to ink in where the pencil line is, where it goes behind various bits of motif here. And I am deliberately putting little, almost like tears, almost like raggedy edges in my line to give it the impression that those raggedy bits are deliberate, so that if I do one by accident it fits in. And then I can either fill this background in with pattern or colour or anything else. So I know I used Pitt Artist pens last time to add shadow here. I'm tempted to do that again for consistency, but I'm also tempted to add something else. Shall I? I'm going, because I don't want to use graphite. I don't want to use charcoal because it will spread too far, as will chalk pastel, because they're still quite small areas. Hang on, I've just noticed something here. That works. That needed to go in. And one there as well. Just tidy that up. Okay, I give in. Pitt Artist pens it is. Okay, over here I'm going to add some darker grey just at the base here to put this in that little bit more shadow. There, like here, like there. Not all the way up, I'm just putting a distinct shadow in there. And I've got a paler Pitt Artist pen here, which I'm going to add a bit more further up. It's very subtle. I think this one is picking up a lot of the black ink, to be honest. But the disadvantage of these is they will pick up the pigment. Okay, and then we'll do the same kind of thing with these. I have to work out which part is sticking up and which is sticking down, where there would be shadow. See, I'm thinking there is where the shadow would be. Yeah, I think so. Let's keep the shadows consistent, even if everything to do with this isn't all that consistent. We've had high winds, heavy rain here overnight. I can hear some jackdaws bok-bocking outside. Clattering is the sound that they make. Oh, that's their collective noun, a clattering of jackdaws. Isn't that wonderful? So we've got that going on. So that's added some dimension there. And I will put some underneath there as well, just to pick that out. These ones I'm going to carry on with shadow underneath, and I will fill this little section with grey there actually, because filling backgrounds with grey is always an option as well, rather than black. So I'm going to the left and bottom of these just to pick out shadows, especially where they overlap as well. I say especially where they overlap as well as where they overlap. My pen work isn't very good today, I do apologise. And here, even though I've put texture in, I'm still going to add some shadows in both places. Okay, and some shadow there as well. Underneath, the left and bottom, left, bottom, left, bottom, left, bottom. I think there might be a little bit on that side and on this one too, and around there. Here I'm going to put some shadow on my rixty. So I'm going to the left and the bottom on the outside of the shape and the top and right on the inside. So we've got 2 areas of shadow. Okay, so there and in there. So here I'm just going to pop it down here, bottom and then the top. I'll come back and deal with the lines or the sticks, the straws, the supports for the rixty in a moment. There we go. Right, I'm going to put some shadow where these overlap on either side more than anything else. I think they're too small for me to put proper shadow in, but I think that'll be enough if I just pop some shadow where there's overlapping happening. Helps to bring out the dimension. I mean, it's not wonderful, but I think it's as good as I'm going to get today. Like so. Then on these ones, it's going to be a little bit at the bottom of these shapes. Like so. Like so, just to bring that out. I'm going to leave the inside as it is, really. And then for these, I am going to increase the shadow in some places on the inside. So around there, I want that a bit darker. There, I'd like that a bit darker. Here, I'd like those a bit darker and that little bit there. Here, I think I may just put a little bit of shadow where that circle is. And in these, I'm just going to fill these little bits with bits of grey. So I think that will work. And I think that's enough. So this is where we've got to. There's just that one little section left to do. And I must probably work out what I want to do on the other one and then come back and complete this one with those patterns and work out how I want to fill backgrounds and so on in. I know I've got black to put up here. Most probably will put black in there, maybe just grey. And I've still yet to work out how I'm going to fill behind here. I may not do anything. I may just leave it as it is. Perhaps put some drop shadows because that would work quite nicely as well. Or some pattern in there. So thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you give it a go. Whether you are replicating what I'm drawing or using some of the patterns in your own way, either way is fine by me. So until we see each other again, do take care, look after yourselves, and above all else, find time to be creative. Ta-ra for now. Bye.